Hey, welcome back to Being Integrated. I'm Jude, and today we are exploring the big shift that really changed my meditation and mindfulness practice. How can we meditate smarter instead of harder? So first, I'm going to start with a bit of a critique of the traditional meditation paths and the way that they prescribe practice. So most meditative traditions are really designed to be implemented by monks. Now, in these traditions, there are, of course, householders. But even the householders at the time, the lay people who weren't monks, those people were living a very different lifestyle than we are today. People had slower lives where they weren't tuned in to news all day, lives mostly in nature, a lot less stimulation, less dopamine intensity. Humans today are not living anything like we lived 1,000 years ago. But when you start a meditation practice, they prescribe you more or less the same path that people used to follow 1,000 years ago. And that's how I started practicing. I originally started in Tibetan Buddhism, and I was more or less doing the same practices that people were doing 1,000 years ago. And it really didn't work for me. And it was only many years later that I started to explore why didn't it work for me. So there's a really great teacher named Sayadaw U Tejaniya in the Burmese Theravada Vipassana tradition. He teaches a very straightforward style of meditation practice. And he really sums up what meditation practice is about in one phrase: relax and be aware, which is also the title of one of his books, which is a fantastic book. Highly recommend it. So this is really what meditation boils down to. For samatha style of practice, a more concentration-based practice, I would say the basic instruction is relax and focus. You want a relaxed body and a focused mind. In Vipassana, the goal is really to relax and be aware, to relax and notice what is happening in your experience. Now, the part that gets skipped over a lot, the part that I think is maybe underemphasized, the part that really holds a lot of us back in our progress around meditation is the relax piece. That it is not emphasized enough, and there are not enough strategies taught around how to really, truly, deeply relax. Now, having ADHD, a kind of buzzy, dysregulated nervous system, I've always had trouble really relaxing. My mind's always going crazy, searching for dopamine hits. To really just settle down into my experience is difficult for me. And so I developed strategies that really worked to help me settle. So I share a lot of these on my channel. This is why my meditation for ADHD video is so successful and resonant with so many people, because it's teaching them how to actually relax, especially people who have difficulty relaxing. Telling somebody who's all worked up, just try harder to relax, isn't very effective. And in fact, it's probably going to do the opposite. But to actually give people strategies that work to help relax, that's going to change their whole paradigm, their whole experience. When you try to relax and you can't relax, it's frustrating. But if you have strategies that actually work, then you have something to turn to help you relax when you need it. So the essence of my approach, how to meditate smarter, is to look for what is getting in the way of us being more relaxed and focused, or relaxed and aware. And the two domains we always want to look at, the body and the mind. How can we help our body relax? What is happening in the body? When we go to meditate, we try to relax and focus, or relax and be aware. What starts happening? Distracting thoughts come up. So that's something that we can look at. We can look at what is motivating those thoughts. We can look at the patterns that arise in our thoughts. Are we constantly thinking about the future, imagining the future we desire? Or maybe we're imagining a terrible future where things go wrong for us. Or maybe we're dwelling in the past. But you want to look at the patterns and what is motivating the thoughts. Is there an underlying fear? Is there an underlying desire? And it usually comes down to fear and desire. And the more deeply you can acknowledge those motivating factors, the more you can be free of them. The more aware you can be every time those patterns come up. Oh, that's just my fear of this or my desire for that. And that acknowledgement allows things to subside a bit more, allows us to be more free and not so caught up in the narrative. But the big piece that is often overlooked when working with intense thinking is the body, because we're looking at how intense our thoughts are. We're thinking, oh, my thoughts, I can't stop them. So we think that that's what we need to work with, when often there's this restlessness or this discomfort in the body, and addressing that directly, coming out of the mind and into the body, is going to be a lot more helpful. There are a lot of really great practices for working with body awareness, body sensations. There's Goenka style body scans, where you just scan from the top of your body down to your toes and back up. There's actually a lot of traditions that do body scans, but the Vipassana Goenka style is the one that's become the most popular. There's also just a practice of resting in spacious awareness. So just noticing the feeling of spaciousness, how our awareness can kind of expand out in the space around us, and then just resting in that and noticing what's happening in that space. So instead of identifying or being really into what we're feeling, we're more so noticing the space in which experience is happening. And then when we're feeling really restless or really agitated, the strategy I really like is to go directly into that. So looking directly at what is the barrier to us being more relaxed and focused and being really curious about it. So what we're doing is we're bringing the sensations more into awareness. We're becoming more clear with them, but at the same time accepting them more, being more equanimous with them. And this practice, really paying attention to, being curious about, and validating and accepting our feelings is incredibly transformative. There are so many reasons why this is impactful. Coming more into our lives really means coming more into our body. And if the experience in our body is uncomfortable, we're going to avoid that. We're going to check out, we're going to dissociate, we're going to get lost in thoughts. But the real teaching of Buddhism, of meditation, is that now, the present moment is what's so important. The more we can come into the present, the better everything's going to get for us. Because this is the only place that we exist. This is the only place that life is happening. And if we want to move through uncomfortable experiences better, and if we want to be more open to pleasurable and joyous experiences, then we have to be more present. So meditation really is just coming more into presence. But again, the whole question is, what is the barrier to presence? Why do we check out? Why do we get lost in thoughts? Why do we ruminate on the past or fantasize about the future so much? And the more we can bring those whole patterns and mechanisms into awareness, the more we're going to be free of them and feel more comfortable to arrive into our presence. So when I got started studying Buddhism, the advice I always got, always was find one path and stick to it. Don't just jump around and cherry pick from different paths. That if you really want to make progress, you have to stick to a path. And I'm going to give you the total opposite advice, because I think that sticking to a path that isn't really working for you is really not a good idea. So yes, it's really great to commit to a practice or a path for a while, but you really want to explore and make sure that that path is actually working for you, that you're actually making progress and you're not just making things harder on yourself. So on my channel, I really try to introduce people into different practices, different ways of working. And I have a lot more of this planned. I'm going to be doing some more in-depth explorations of different paths, different traditions, different ways of meditating that I think can be super helpful and effective. So if that interests you, make sure you're subscribed, sign up for my newsletter to get updates, because the algorithm doesn't always show the videos. And as always, leave a comment if you would like, because I really love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time.